Perfect. Welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee special session of the council for the 17th day of June 2026. Just before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that this evening's meeting is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. So welcome to the folks at home that are watching this evening. Welcome to those that are in the body of the council chambers now, and welcome to those that will watch us at a later date. Having said all that, we'll call the meeting to order. And as always, we'll start this evening's meeting off with our opening proceedings, which is the playing of our national anthem. I'll ask those that are in the body of the council chambers to stand, face the flag as we play our national anthem. Thanks, everyone. Jumping right in this evening's agenda, we'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. First matter on this evening's agenda is the Provincial Development Charges Reduction Program application. And I believe, Mr. Nobes, you're going to speak to that. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Council. The report on this evening's agenda is seeking Council direction regarding the potential application to the DCRP program that closes. The intake closes on Friday at 10 a.m. Staff have been working through a draft application, and we are continuing to fine-tune the financial aspect, and we'll be doing so through tomorrow if Council directs to make the application. But I wanted to provide Council an update as to where staff are headed with the direction at this time. So the DCRP is a competitive funding program from the federal and provincial government, funding $8.8 billion to eligible municipalities that are willing to cut their development charges. It is ultimately designed to offset foregone development charge revenues and support infrastructure that enables housing growth. Funding is predominantly prioritized based on the depth of DC reduction, the number of housing units that are supported by the projects, and the shovel readiness of such projects that are identified in the application itself. So we're looking at this from a staff lens as a capital funding opportunity and a housing incentive opportunity, both kind of all in one. The projects that we are identifying are already in our existing DC background study, so they are eligible to be included and identified in the application. So we certainly tick that box. The projects themselves would be required at some point in time, regardless of whether the program, the application would be successful. As we continue to grow in the municipality, these projects would need to come online. This would help expedite those projects and potentially have a significant non-DC funding offset as a result. It would also help position the lands as build ready for such growth when it's ready to come. So the projects that we've identified are the Slash Road trunk sanitary sewer upgrades, the County Road 2 sanitary pumping station and force main upgrade, and a new West End water booster station to enable growth predominantly in the western and northwestern area of the municipality. That's where a municipal class EA has been done with the county and the town jointly, and where we've been identifying a future secondary plan area for the town in our official plan update. So it's been on the radar for a number of years, and this is an opportunity that might help to see that come to fruition sooner than anticipated. What we've identified through those projects is that the estimated DC recoverable value of that project package is around $4.5 million, give or take. What we would be potentially foregoing in DC revenue, solely using projections through our development charge background study, would be around $2.3 million. And that's if we were to be fully in line with those projections. We could go up, we could go down. And what the province is saying is that they want municipalities to have conversations with their development community to gauge the interest level of the development community, given the program and how many units they anticipate bringing online in the window of time. So we haven't received all of our responses back yet, which is why we haven't been able to nail down exactly what the funding ask is. But we're seeing numbers that are certainly higher than we would be projecting through those the DC background study itself. So what that would amount to is a higher potential foregone revenue and therefore justify a higher funding request. Given the numbers that we're getting in right now, we're looking at closer to the $6 million mark, which is quite substantially more than what we would be foregoing at a 50% reduction just solely using our DC background study. So if there is a major uptick in the market and these developers see the opportunity, they are willing to pull the trigger and get these projects underway. The province does reserve the right to audit municipalities over time. So meaning your estimates can't be grossly out of line with what's reasonable and realistic. These unit counts are technically shovel ready. They're draft approved units. They just need to get through a short period to create the lots themselves. So it's certainly not out of the question that these numbers are certainly doable. It's ultimately going to come down to what the market drives, but we're happy to see the numbers coming in from the development community being higher than what we would anticipate, and therefore we would be in a good position to seek a higher funding amount as a result. The municipality is going to need to provide a minimum of 10% of all project costs from non-DC funding sources. And the municipality would remain responsible for all cost overruns and associated financing. So given that the province is effectively signaling, we would provide the municipality with up to 90% of eligible project costs, you need to fund 10%. We could be, once we get through our last push tomorrow, the ask could be well above 6. It's totally possible once we run these final numbers. So we're looking to put ourselves in a position where we're not going to be in any risk of a major shortfall, but we need to be realistic with these numbers ultimately. So we haven't nailed them down yet, but we are doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we're not taking an unnecessary and unrealistic amount of risk as a result. It's most likely that 10% or greater amount that we identify would likely have to be borne through initially long-term debt and then repaid over time through user fees, which is typical with most of our major infrastructure projects. So at this point in time, we're seeking to reduce that amount of long-term debt that's needed to get the projects going. So if DCs are reduced, it doesn't guarantee we get the housing starts. It doesn't guarantee lower home prices, as all of this will ultimately be dictated by market conditions, interest rates, construction costing, et cetera. The external funding sources that could be gained through this would really help reduce the pressure on drawing from reserves, help not inflate future rates, user rates, and could help dramatically lower future debt. So through the application itself, there's no commitment, or there's a willingness, but it's not a firm commitment to actually reduce the DCs. So you're saying effectively the application says we would reduce them if we're successful, but there's no actual reduction at that time. It's only if you're successful and only if the municipality wants to sign the actual transfer payment agreement with the province. So really, the application that's due on Friday, it really positions us in a good spot to have the potential to access the funding, but it doesn't commit us to taking it and therefore reducing our DC charges as a result. So there would be another opportunity for staff and council to really see what the province would be willing to offer and if that's palatable and if that makes sense. So this is really just getting ourselves through the door to see if we would be eligible to get any of that funding or not. And final review and final sign off effectively would come later in the summer if successfully awarded monies from the province. So although we might make a specific dollar amount request from the province, there's no guarantee and there's no obligation for them to hit that mark. They may say, oh, you're only going to get half of what you asked for or less or more. It's really going to depend on how they review these applications and what they come back with if we are successful. And that is where we can have more further review and more risk assessment as a result. Alternatively, tonight, council could direct that we do not apply to the funding application. These projects would then need to be borne through realized DCs over time, potentially increased rates, more debt. But what that would ultimately mean is we would miss out on this one-time competitive funding intake and leaves potentially a significant amount of external funding on the table. So from a staff perspective, it's more risky to not apply and see what you might get than to just not apply at all and hope and pray that development comes along. Projects need to start by mid 2030 and finish by late 2035. The projects that we've identified, we believe can certainly hit those marks. Ultimately, from staff's perspective, this opportunity really could give us good leverage on accessing external funding and reducing reliance on both the levy and future rates. And I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Nobes. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Michael with respect to the report that's in front of us or the presentation that he has given us this evening? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So Mike, this is only for residential units?
Through your worship, yes. Thank you, Councillor Shank. Yeah, I forgot to clarify that. So this would only reduce the residential development charge rate. The non-residential rate would remain the same. So any commercial growth would be paying the full development charge rate.
And then also they're backdating it till March 30th, 2026?
Correct. The rates that were in effect at that date. Yeah.
So if somebody took a building permit and paid 100% of their development bylaw charge, all right, when they were building their house, can they apply when later on down the line when things become more clear with the province and the transfer, can they get 50% of their development charge back?
Yep, through your worship. So that is a requirement if successful through the funding, that if you had any building permits issued after March 30th, then you would need to retroactively refund. Not often would we have a project start on April 1st and be done by today. Yeah. Those DCs are all residential. DCs are deferred to occupancy. So they would just pay half of what they thought they'd have to. Okay. If that makes sense.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'll move that motion.
Great. Councillor Shank, and thanks. Councillor Hicks, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Provincial Development Charges Reduction Program application report, and further council direct staff to submit an application into the funding intake as described in the staff report using 50% development charge reduction for residential rates for a period of 3 years. We do have a motion that's on the floor. We'll call a question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Next matter is financial and IT services service standards. And I think, Matthew, you're going to start, and that'll allow the rest of staff to get up to the front and get settled in. So whenever you're ready, Matthew, go ahead.
Great. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council. So for this evening, council will see the last tranche, if you will, of service levels for the municipality. At the end of today, we will have all external service levels available for council's continuous review and for review by members of the public. This represents, I would suggest, a substantial amount of work by the team. It identifies all of our legal obligations. It identifies what specific services we provide, what it takes to provide them, and the level at which we're going to provide them. I would also point out that finance and IT services, you're going to see a number of internal facing service levels, and more than most, IT and finance, a lot of the work they do is to enable the rest of the organization to do their work. And I point that out because one of the things we're also going to do is the internal facing service levels will live on the intranet for the municipality and will serve as a service level agreement between departments about the level of service that they can expect from their colleagues, which will aid them in their own work planning. And so this is to be followed by corporate capital planning and infrastructure, growth in infrastructure, as well as things like compliance. But I would like to thank every member of the team because this was not an insignificant amount of work.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. And we will move out to the team. Ms. Hamill, are you going to start? Or
Yes, thank you.
Yep, floor is yours.
Thank you. So as Matthew has pointed out, a number of the financial and IT services service levels are internal or highly legislated or already within existing policy. So we have a lot of slides here tonight. We don't intend to spend a pile of time on them. If there's at any point you want us to go back to anything that's within them, please feel free to stop us. But just given the nature of the work that we do, we didn't feel it was necessary to spend a ton of time going through those kind of internal or already legislated service levels. Okay, so this is just a highlight of kind of the broad strokes of the service levels that we do offer. On the left-hand side, you'll see the financial ones, and in the center, you'll see those related to IT. All of our service levels and the services that we provide to council and to the community are funded mostly through the tax levy. There is some support from user fee and grants, but largely it's borne by the tax levy. We do all of this work with 9 full-time equivalent staff members. There are 7 in finance and 2 in IT. We do have some shared positions, one being in customer service, which is shared with building and planning. And then there is another that's shared between finance on the payroll side, and that is a shared position with HR. We also do have summer students that support some of the IT work during the summer months. This is a list of just some of the legislative authorities that we're required to follow, which drives a lot of what we do. The main ones obviously being the Municipal Act, Public Sector Accounting Standards, ESA. There's a whole host of provincial and federal legislation there that you'll see. We also have a number of municipal bylaws and policies. Last year, or this year, I guess, earlier this year, we did implement a number of financial policies, and a lot of what you'll see here is pulled directly from those policies. So it's already within existing guidelines within the organization. With that being said, there is, as we've said a number of times, not a lot of discretionary that we do that will give council kind of the levers to be able to change service levels. We do have some, obviously, primarily I would say probably within customer service. But there are times when we can adjust some of our reporting that's not legislative council that wishes to see things more frequently, less frequently, things like that. Okay, so getting into kind of the details of the service levels we provide, we tried to break them down into kind of buckets that made sense. It ironically sort of happened where most of them are tied to an individual position. That's just the way that our department is set up. It's not necessarily how all service levels within finance would be segregated. This first one is financial management reporting. So these are our core financial stewardship functions that would support council's oversight on their role of supporting financial responsibility of the municipality. So we do our annual budget development, yearly audit and financial statements, daily cash monitoring, weekly deposits, and monthly reconciliations. We do various reporting, including quarterly financial reports to council. And although council receives those reports quarterly, we do issue our year-to-date financials monthly internally to staff. So those are done more frequently internally. And of course, our annual audit and our ongoing reporting on things such as reserve balances, gas tax, DC reports, things like that. Again, these are the services that provide control and information reports to council to aid them in their decision-making, which is generally completed by Nathan and myself. Procurement standards, again, largely internal, which we've been working to kind of develop what those service standards would look like. So these ones are relatively new. Most of them we've put around a 5-day turnaround internally, and then monthly on the financial and IT services activity reports, we are reporting to council on the delegated authorities that we've used under that bylaw, in addition to just our AP listing with all of our payments that go out in that period. Sorry. And again, this one is largely internal. Again, this is just setting up our service levels around granting, which again is a shared service with our procurement and grants coordinator. So we have although it's listed as one FTE, it's very much a portion of one FTE that would support this particular function. Again, most of that reporting outwards to council happens on our activity reports.
Oh, sorry. So the next portion, as Ellen mentioned, is customer service. So this is the main function that service levels at an external level would have an influence on for council. I don't want to say for the most part, but the main portion of this would be the staff that are sitting at the front counter at our office. They're answering the phone the bulk of time, doing transactions, so on. The bulk of this is regulated through our customer service policy, which was adopted in 2023. A lot of the service highlights that you'll see on the slide here are drawn from that. I will note that a lot of this stuff says voicemail returns within 2 business days, email correspondence within 2 business days. A lot of the times our staff are much quicker than that. I would say the bulk of the time that is the case, but that is the standard we have set. So that's obviously not, our target isn't 2 days. Our target is much higher than most of the time, but that is what the standard is, I should say. So I'll move on from that. The next couple of slides are all through policies we just adopted, as Ellen mentioned. So AP, tax policy, those all came back. AR as well. No, that's, am I pointing the wrong direction here? Thank you. So the next one.
Sorry, I just want to add on the property tax administration specifically. The only real difference here, this is highly legislated, but the Municipal Act does allow us to do tax registrations after 2 years in arrears. The policy that we provided to council a couple of months back set that at 3 years, which has been our ongoing process that we've done for a number of years. And the legislation just changed. Well, it's probably a number of years ago now. It feels like yesterday, but we are still going under that old process of allowing for 3 years for tax sale registration. There would be a significant catch-up period if we were to switch to 2 years, and we would have a lot of people that would fall into that category. So that's just something to keep in mind, but is a lever that council has the ability to change that service level on if there was a point that we wanted to look at reducing or increasing when we register properties for tax sale back to 2 years rather than 3.
So moving on from property tax administration, AP and AR, accounts payable, accounts receivable. This is mainly an internal function as well as some external stakeholders with AP, but not so much a resident side, more businesses. From time to time, there is the crossover in that, but this is a mainly internal function between departments, coding, sending invoices back and forth. And as mentioned, this is brought through in a policy a couple meetings ago. And then the last function is payroll and benefits administration, which is all internal for the most part. Obviously dealing with some external agencies such as CRA and our benefits holders, but fully internal for the organization in that regard.
I'll just break here if council has any questions on the finance related policies before Dave jumps into the one specific to IT.
Great. Does anybody have any questions with respect to what we've heard so far? Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So the 7 full-time or and the 2 that are split. So the 9, that's no change. You're not adding anybody or anything else. That's what you currently have, correct?
That's correct.
It's just that I'm a little gun shy now with what's going on in the community. So I just want to make sure. Yeah, thank you.
It's always best to ask, Mike. So
Yep.
thanks for doing that. Is there anything else? If not, we'll move on to IT.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have IT broken down into 3 core service categories. The first being the end user and systems services, which pretty much covers everything that we support, every piece of technology that staff utilize in their day-to-day work. Key services within that are support desk, user account management, application network support, cloud service, and so on. So pretty much everything that staff utilize on a daily basis. In terms of service desk, we look to acknowledge requests within a day of receiving them, help desk requests. Resolution times work on a triage system based on severity and priority of incident. Typical services like account provisioning, onboarding, and so on, we attempt to get complete within 2 days of the request. New equipment set up within 5 business days, but obviously relies on availability and so on. In terms of networking, we aim for around about a 99% uptime and typically achieve that. Any outages on networks obviously take priority and are dealt with immediately. Beyond that, we monitor continually throughout the day, verify backups and so on. In terms of FTEs, it's myself and Scott as full-time, and then a combination of summer students and co-ops when we can get them. Second set of services are around cybersecurity, data governance, and compliance. So effectively that security blanket we wrap around all core systems. So security monitoring, excuse me, security monitoring, obviously absolutely priority for us. We do have those services outsourced, but we do maintain eyes on all the time on that. Any critical incidents, obviously, as soon as they're reported, are escalated immediately. Patching, key part to that security that we provide happens in line with vendor guidance and through a risk assessment of those patches and when and how we apply them. Daily backups obviously occur to ensure that when something does go wrong, we're able to get it up quickly and respond appropriately. The final category is business support. So what we look to do here is support business applications, any new software that's been considered that's going to be brought on board, gets evaluated and run through an assessment process. The only real external piece that we do for support is on the CCTV systems, where we get requests, FOIs, and through OPP. There's no or very limited services that are on a timeline within this category. Beyond that, we include the mobile device management piece, project delivery, audit assistance where required. And that sums it up. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dave. Is there any questions or comments for Dave or anyone else at the front with respect to the presentation and reports that are in front of us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information, financial and IT services standards report, and further that council adopts the service standards for IT and financial services as presented. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks, folks. Next matter up is growth and infrastructure service standards. Mr. Cuthell, Mr. Nobes, whenever you're ready, we'll get started. So are you going to start, Michael, or no? Yeah, okay. So whenever you get ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to council. I'm joined by Jeff Cuthell and Mike Dwyer this evening as we go through the Public Works service standards. Once we run through Public Works, I'll then ask Christy Kelly to come up and we'll run through utilities. Mr. Dave Nanton was unable to attend tonight. He is battling an illness and unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but I'll be covering his content for him. Okay. Of course. Okay. So growth and infrastructure holistically, this slide's really just giving an overall of the department. So between building and planning, public works, and utilities, we've got a good breadth of responsibility under the corporation. Predominantly, we're making recommendations to council regarding community growth. We're undertaking building code administration and code enforcement. We're managing our infrastructure assets to ensure continuity of service for residents. We're managing contract administration for capital renewal, which we're currently undertaking right now on a number of projects. We oversee curbside waste collection and no longer have the purview of recycling as the province has taken that responsibility, but we still manage to contract with our waste service provider. We also manage and operate a number of municipal waste disposal sites, and we operate out of a number of satellite offices and 99 advanced administration building. We've got our water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant. We've got Roblin, we've got Selby, we've got our public works yards in the north, in the south, and in the center. So we've got a lot of area that we've covered and a lot of locations that our staff are working out of. So Public Works, generally speaking, Public Works is maintaining our critical infrastructure, predominantly our roadways. We're ensuring that residents have safe travel, that the infrastructure is functional. We're ensuring that we're complying with environmental standards, and we're providing a continuous and uninterrupted level of service for our community. We're providing year-round operations predominantly on our roads again, but also stormwater management systems, stormwater ponds that we've inherited through subdivision works. We're dealing with our fleet as well as our seasonal programs. We predominantly operate under the minimum maintenance standards legislation, but we also have a number of other pieces of legislation that we operate under. And our funding sources predominantly are general tax levy, some small user fees for permitting related works, and a lot of reliance on grant funding through the province and federal government, as well as our performance measures contract with the County of LNA. From a staffing perspective, we're quite lean for what we do. Council has seen our winter control requirements, the number of lane kilometers that we've got, the number of plows that we have, the number of bodies per plow. We're very much limited in redundancy, predominantly during the winter months, but we've been able to get by. It's certainly quite a challenge, but that's something that we're keeping our eye on. This slide really just breaks down all of our FTEs as well as our part-time and summer students. And we can get into that in detail if council wishes, but I'll just keep keep moving through here. As hinted at previously, we operate predominantly under the MMS framework, but we do have a number of other pieces of legislation, such as the Drainage Act, Highway Traffic Act, Environmental Protection Act, that govern a lot of our work. And we also have a number of municipal bylaws and policies that are listed on the slide here that govern the way in which we do our work. It's not a lot of discretionary service levels that we have. I'll lead in briefly here before I turn it over to Mr. Cuthell and Mr. Dwyer, but the service levels that are set in the agenda documents are effectively aligned with the MMS legislation in one consolidated location. We routinely are exceeding those, but we wanted to set that as a baseline, as a defensive for using in claims for defending our operations. We didn't want to set an unrealistic and unachievable standard that we would then be held to in a discovery proceeding. So we really wanted to align our minimum service standards with those MMS requirements, but we wanted council to know that we are effectively all the time well exceeding those, but we did just want to set that as the absolute baseline. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Cuthell now, and he can run through the core services that Public Works provides.
Thank you. Through your worship, yeah, Michael has given a good overview of our department and the FTEs that we take and the year-round services that our department offers. I'm going to run through those year-round services. We broke them out into 5 different areas. We have year-round, and then we broke it into seasonal, winter, spring, summer, and fall. And we'll just go through them at a high level. If council would like us to go back or dive into anything more in depth, we have Mr. Dwyer here as well to all the knowledge that we should need to answer any of the questions here tonight. So the Public Works Services delivers year-round road infrastructure and environmental services. We have 21 full-time FTEs, 4 summer students, and 1 shared part-time position. That's with the Parks and Rec. They come over in the wintertime to help us with sidewalk plowing and cemetery plowing. As I mentioned before, we broke it out into year-round maintenance as road patrol, patching, fleet, waste and stormwater services. And then we have winter where it's plowing, sanding, salting, snow removal. Spring is cleanup, yard waste, gravel grading, and fleet transitions. Summer, mowing, dust suppression, pavement markings, capital projects. And fall, stormwater maintenance, sidewalk repairs, and winter preparation. A lot of these are, as Michael mentioned before, governed under the minimum maintenance standards, OREG 23902. Under the year-round maintenance, we've identified areas that it's like there's 24/7 on call. We have one of our employees are on call through a call center to respond to any incidences such as trees down, flooding, winter maintenance activities, debris, animals on road. There's road patrol, road patching, and crack sealing. These were a couple, as Michael had mentioned earlier. We listed the requirements through the minimum maintenance standards here, but these are a couple that we would identify out. When we're doing road patching, we're not waiting for a pothole to establish to the 8 centimeters and such. We're patching all deficiencies in the road as we're going through them. So that's a good one to bring out. Same as crack sealing right there below it. We don't wait for that crack to reach there. We're sealing all cracks when we are initiating that program. Year round, there's signs, street lights, entrance permits, and waste and stormwater. Winter operations, snow plowing, sanding, sidewalk clearing, parking lot maintenance, urban snow removal, weather monitoring, winter parking enforcement, and just other winter services such as tree collection, mailbox replacements. And we state the replacement cycles. We try and replace any mailboxes that are struck by our plows. And within 5 days, there's material stockpiling and such.
And just to jump in really briefly, just to point at that Christmas tree collection, that would be an example of a discretionary service that is provided by the town. It's not a mandated legislated piece, but effectively everything else in this list is unfortunately legislated.
Catch.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
So the new council during budget time, like you have, so you collect Christmas trees. When I read it, there was 12 full-time for a whole week to collecting trees. So when you figure out what 12 full-time for 1 week, what their salary is, plus fuel and everything else, and the whole of the 9 yards, it's quite a costly endeavor. So I'm just, that's budget time, you know, service levels, what can be done, what can be done, you know.
Yep, absolutely. And it's nice to know that it obviously is a discretionary thing, right? So there's a little bit of wiggle room there once budget time comes around. So we can have a discussion about that at that time. So is there anything else before we move on? Yep, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff, I was just wondering, are you anticipating any large increases in budgetary requirements due to, like, we've had a significant amount of growth in the town in the last couple of years, and we've got another subdivision that's coming online this year and whatever. Is that going to create a strain on budgetary requirements? And
That's a great question, Councillor Martin. We do have a great number of subdivisions that were created in the 1970s and such throughout our town that are coming of age, and we are seeing a need to invest some dollars in them to renew ditching, stormwater maintenance, road platforms, pedestrian travel has become a big focus for the municipality, and some of those older subdivisions don't have the sidewalk network that we much look for today. There is that need, and then there is the need of investing for future replacement of the infrastructure that would be proposed with these new developments as well. So yes, there is going to be a growing need for investment into infrastructure for sure.
thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I think also through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Martin's question, I would say the team is on the edge of being strained now. And I think the importance of having service standards is if there are new subdivisions coming up, new parks being built, those kinds of things, those aren't just capital endeavors. Each of those things should be an operating consideration as well. And I think with the work of the team, this now gives us the language and the tool to have those conversations.
Great, thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there anything else before we, oh, go ahead, Mr. Notes.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just to build on Councillor Martin's question, yes, certainly from an infrastructure perspective, we're going to need to keep our mind focused on infrastructure renewal for older projects and plan for newer projects coming online that within that 40, 50-year time frame, there's going to be some money that needs to be invested there. But additionally, as we get these new roads, we're going to need to plow them. There will be an additional staffing need at some point in the future as well, too, right? As the community grows, we're at a point now where we're very much almost at the limit. So we're at the point where we really need to put some focus on how many staff do we need to really help facilitate continuing to provide this level of service. So no ask right now, but it's certainly something that's routinely in our minds and looking to find ways to get that staffing level to a position that it needs to be, but reducing reliance on the levy at the same time.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Is there anything else? If not, we'll continue on. Yep, go ahead.
Maybe. Thank you. Moving into spring maintenance. So this runs, we've identified this period to be April to June. It'd be post-winter cleanup, and completing a road salt report, yard waste collection, lawn repairs, guide post and guide rail maintenance, gravel road grading. That's just reshaping our granular roads after the winter time, get them in shape for the summer, dust suppressants, downtown beautifications, getting the planters and the benches back out onto the streets, and then fleet transitions, getting our fleet ready for capital projects and summer maintenance activities. Okay, yeah, that's good. The yard waste collection, that would be another one that we would highlight as a discretionary line that's not mandated through any regulation, but it's just an extra service that is provided. And then moving into summer maintenance, identified through June to October. Most of these are governed through our minimum maintenance standards, as well as shorter grading, and just watching any drop-offs that increase over the threshold. Roadside mowing, 2 cuts annually on all municipal roads, as well as what we're contracted out to roadside mow with the county, for the county of Lennox and Acton. Gravel road grading, dust suppressant. There's 2 rounds of calcium applications for dust suppressant annually. Usually those applications are conducted the 1st of June, and then the second application or touch-up is applied in August. Sidewalk inspections, also governed through minimum maintenance standards. These inspections are any horizontal or vertical deficiencies that are identified in the walking surfaces of the sidewalk are then flagged and corrected annually. Pavement markings, these are longitudinal and transverse line painting, drainage, ditching, and catch basin maintenance, and then county capital projects, as well as county projects that we have time to fit in to keep our equipment operating and hopefully garnish some extra payback with that. And then moving into fall maintenance is September to November. This is generally where we've come down off of the summer construction rush, and we're focusing on getting everything ready for winter. Sidewalk repairs fall into this time. Stormwater piping maintenance is another increase here, getting everything ready to go into the winter time. Flushing of the stormwater system. Fall yard waste collection. There's another one that's offered spring and fall for the leaf and brush collection. That's another one of the discretionary services. County project invoicing. This is getting caught up and reconciliation of all the billing for our county performance measure, or our county work that we've completed throughout the summer months, and then preparation of the fleet for winter maintenance. And at this time, we've gone over, but more than happy to go in depth on any one of those service areas that have been identified throughout the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Is there any questions or comments for Jeff with respect to, go ahead, Councilor.
Property standards. Mike, if somebody doesn't cut their lawn, when do they have to be cut? Oh, sorry, Jess. Could you answer that now to me?
Sorry, through your worship. We will get more into that when we present the bylaw enforcement service standards later this evening.
Okay. So the only reason why I'm saying is that I'm not knocking you guys, so don't take it to, you know what I mean? But I've got hay beside the municipal roads that are 4 feet high. Now, somebody complained to me the other day that the neighbor hadn't cut his lawn yet. Well, how can the town go ahead and say, hey, you got to cut your lawn when you haven't even cut the roadsides? And you got 3 full-time. So we have 3 tractors going now? Because you said 3 FTEs on roadside cutting.
Yeah, so the one of the FTEs listed there would have been for urban parks and trails and just urban commercial areas that aren't maintained, empty vacant lots.
Oh,
Is
so you guys
our
do
that's
that
our
now?
one of our sidewalk machines with the flail mower on it. But we do only have the 2 agricultural tractors that cut county and town.
So
So they're
these-
going over approximately jumping, it's 285 and 165 kilometers of road times 2 lane kilometers. And then, and I understand where the question is the season was early this year and our approval from the Minister of Environment was a little bit late for the roadside spraying. So unfortunately, we are on it now and it does get ahead of us. It's hard to deploy them out and
So
get over all those lanes.
My guys, don't take this wrong, but are they still running the versatile or the bi-directional Ford? All right, with that
Yes.
bush hog that cuts 2.5 feet, because I see 2 meters, and I think that thing, I could cut faster with my lawnmower than you could with that thing. So I know it's an ask, but you have the flail mower that you can go pretty good. But do you ever go with a disc bind or something and go a little bit quicker, or contract it out, or do something that'd be, because you can get those disc binds and I can zip, like I cut hay at 10 miles an hour. But all I'm saying is it's just that I can see that there's going to be complaints that are going to be coming down the pipe. So, and it's like that every year. So the point is, not to belabor this, cut municipal roads first before you even touch a county road. All right. So municipal roads to the ones that are paying the taxes. All right. Then you can go ahead and do the county roads. But the guys that are people that are paying the taxes, and that 38% of their tax dollar goes to the county. So I think we should definitely stress that the municipal roads get cut first, not cutting 2 or 3 lengths on a county road.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's sorry, guys. Like, they're the ones that pay the bill.
Yeah, and
I think there might be a question in there, but go ahead, Jeff.
yeah, I just want to stress, like the staff are very appreciative from the steps we've made over the past years on replacing some of our equipment. We couldn't agree with you more. The roadside mowers we have, especially the one that you've mentioned, is tired. It's old, but staff did not feel that it was worth to put a full replacement of the mower system on something that needs a full unit replacement. So we have been working on coming forward with a proposal for this year. Now that we can put our focus towards that, and hopefully we can make some more efficiencies in that area.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Grant, and then I have a question from the deputy mayor, so go ahead.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and I think what Mr. Cuttle has politely left out is the lawnmower equipment that they're using on the side of the road isn't fit for purpose. It's not the right kind of equipment. And although they have been diligent in raising that, there were other needs, and I asked them to sharpen their pencils.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Jess, and then we'll get over to the deputy mayor there.
Sorry, through your worship. Just to come back to, I apologize, Councillor Shank, I didn't understand your earlier question, or I missed what it was. Our bylaw requirements are 10 inches for residential property grass, 30 inches, which is 2.5 feet for commercial and industrial properties, and then we do not set a limit for agricultural properties. Just if that context is also helpful.
Yeah, great, thanks. Jess, go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, through your worship. I see the guys out cutting the ditches all the time. I think they're doing a great job. See them going out Hamley Road. We've got Hamley Road done, and it's a nice flail mower they got going out there cutting. It seems to be doing a great job. The 2 new sidewalk machines that we've had within the last couple of years, did we not get the new boom mowers with them as well?
The one in sidewalk, we have one boom flail mower that would operate on either one of the machines, but we only have one for it.
Okay, because I see them working fine down on Highway 33 and stuff, another company, not our guys. Our guys aren't on 33, but I've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and that seems to be the big thing now is the boom mowers on the flail, and they seem to be working. And Mike, it's a great idea to get a disc mower because you can cut 9 feet or 10 feet or 12 feet, but the first time you hit a concrete block or a wheel or something that somebody's thrown in the ditch, it's gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else? Councillor Hicks, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding roadside mowing, does the class of road have any bearing on the sequence of the roads that you're mowing? So if a county road is a class 1 road, meaning well-traveled, does it have to be mowed first before a secondary or tertiary road?
Good question, through your worship. Yes and no, but there's also constraints for sight lines. So at intersections and whatnot, you might want to spend the extra time to remove sightline concerns. So we do typically cut the higher class roads, which are your counties, your number 2, your 41, prior to our own, just for those reasons. And it's kind of more beneficial to cut a road instead of driving past it, to go cut somewhere else. Just more cost effective that way.
Quick pitch. I see there's no spray signs on the side of the road, and which is fine. I understand the reasoning for that. But if I can make a pitch for the corner at Abrams Road and County Road 9, there's 0 sight lines. When you're traveling west and you're coming around that corner, you have no idea if there's a deer, a child, a dog, a car, oncoming traffic, and it's a bad corner because people slingshot it. They drive into it fast and they come out of it even faster. So just a pitch for the neighborhood. If somebody could maybe even just take a drive and see what it's like, because it hasn't been sprayed and it hasn't been mowed, and a lot of the brush is also very tall there. And there's houses just on the west side of that corner, 2 laneways where they're elderly residents and there's mailboxes, et cetera. So thanks.
Just a note on that, like Mr. Cuthell said there earlier, we kind of got handcuffed with the spraying program that we do, which is great. I've seen great improvement with the noxious weeds, but you have to wait. We're kind of at the mercy of the sprayer, the contractor that comes in and does it. They start with the guide rails and then they move to the broadleaf spraying for all of our ditches and including the county roads. But depending on the season, this year's been a growing season where, it started out not as bad, and then all of a sudden, a week later, you've got 2 feet of grass and it becomes hard to cut, and our tractors, burn belts, and it's kind of just a ongoing process. So.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think you brought up a good point. This is that the every season is going to be different, right? So, which affects us the service levels, because you can plan for service levels for one thing, and then all of a sudden the season's a completely different season, and then it's right out of whack. So it's got to be a challenge each and every season as things change. So I appreciate you to bringing that up. Is there anything else? Actually, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
One real quick. Being a farmer, guys, it's one of the best hay crops I've ever had when cutting some early hay off. Took 105 bales off a very small amount of acreage. Best crop we've ever had that way. But did you spray the Bay Shore Road?
It will be sprayed. It should be sprayed this week or next week.
All right. Well, because I already cut down my side of the road with a bush hog, but the reason why I did it, because on the top of the hill there's a 90-degree corner, and there's a lot of senior citizens that walk there. One almost got clipped the other day there. So it just, I know you can only do what you can do, guys, but
yeah, we as the through your worship, as the mayor's mentioned, to be quite honest, like with that, we're seeing a couple weeks earlier this year, and like we mentioned, the Minister of Environment was, I think, at least 2-3 weeks later on getting back to us with our approval. We have enacted the mowers ahead of time. We generally like to see that spray happen in the last part of May, and then we're cutting. We have areas that we don't spray, that we send the mowers out to, and we get cutting in the end of May, and then we'll full-fledged come 1st of June. This year, it's just a common area of of different activities that took place. And yeah, we're behind a little bit, but we're trying to let that spray give its time down. But we have jumped ahead we're in full force right now with the mowers. So.
Okay, great. Is there anything else? If not, oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilor Martin.
That's okay, Mayor. Thank you. I don't know who this question should be addressed to, but you mentioned, Jeff, older subdivisions and earlier, and yesterday I happened to be out in the Parkview subdivision because an elderly gentleman had called me out there to look at ditching. He still cuts his own grass, and I think he's about 82. I won't give you his name and address, right? In fact, I got it to give it to you if you want it later. But anyway, for this purpose, I'm just curious, when you go down Huron Street into the subdivision, you turn right, and along the left-hand side, it's a very deep ditch all the way down to the river area there. And I'm just curious if anybody has ever, the town has ever really done a study on some of the older subdivisions, what they have, what they need. Playground equipment, there's none out there, for instance, as opposed to in town, some of them. So I'm just curious if maybe we can make sure that a subdivision like Parkview is not forgotten, that they, and I'm just wondering about that ditching. If sometime in your travels, you could have a look at that and see if there's any way it could be culverted or something there to take the slope down a little bit from the housing there. Because I know I couldn't stand there. I didn't want to get close. It was like looking over a cliff.
Through your worship, yeah, thank you, Councilor Martin. We do know the area very well. We have had a few residents reach out to staff in that area with the same concerns. And there's many places throughout town, especially in those older subdivisions that we talk about. And the construction, the design of the road construction in them areas were conducive to open ditches. So I know there has been some instances in the past where ditches have been filled in, but we try and really regulate that doesn't happen haphazardly due to the fact that will affect the way the road bed itself drains. If you don't have proper curb drainage and drainage to let that get into a closed pipe system, then the road will ultimately suffer the consequences of that. So during a reconstruction process, you'll quite often see a municipality urbanize an area, fully close the ditches in, put a closed pipe system in, and that's when we talk about generally there's a sidewalk being instated in areas like that don't have any. So those are quite the areas that we're talking about, but just going and straight up putting a pipe in there and filling it in, that's only gonna lessen the life that we have in that road surface and the infrastructure. So it's a tough one to manage right now with the age of those areas.
Thanks for that answer. I appreciate it. I know there's a lot of things we can't do anything about, but I was just trying to solve a gentleman's concern, and you had mentioned older subdivisions earlier, when I can't remember what we were talking about then, I got thinking about some of the things that the older subdivisions, like sidewalks, I mean, and I don't want a sidewalk by my house, that's not why I'm saying it, but a lot of the subdivisions, older ones, don't have some of the things that the newer ones do, so, and they all pay taxes, so that's why I brought it up. Thank you.
Yep, great, thanks, Bill. Is there anything else before we move on to environmental services? Seeing none, okay, I think, is Christy going to come up and speak to the environmental service matter, I think, Michael? Welcome, Christy. And Mike, are you going to start, or is Christy jumping right in?
Yep, Your Worship, I'll start us off and then I'll turn it over to Christy shortly.
Perfect, thanks.
So thank you, Worship, and again, through you to council. So moving into the environmental services section of our service levels, we will just provide a quick overview for environmental services, and then I'll ask Chrissy to get into the actual services that utilities and our solid waste staff actually provide to the community. So utilities predominantly, we're delivering safe drinking water, we're treating our wastewater, and we are ensuring that our solid waste services are in within legislative compliance. We have a total of 15 FTE, so that'd be 6 admin, 9 operational staff. We have 6 part-time waste site attendants and operate with 2 summer students annually, predominantly doing our hydrant program. We also have 24/7 on-call operations and provide emergency response within 1 hour of receiving a call. So we're operating quite a length of water treatment and distribution infrastructure. We are, again, doing the same from a wastewater perspective. We have a number of booster stations, a number of lift stations. We have quite a length of raw water line coming from Lake Ontario into the municipality for treating our potable treated water. We provide our utilities billing and customer service. We're undertaking capital planning and infrastructure renewal projects and engaging in environmental events and community engagement from a waste perspective. Predominant funding sources are through our water and wastewater user rates. The general and special tax levy from a solid waste perspective for managing the curbside collection contract. We have a number of user-specific fees from permitting perspective and are actively seeking federal and provincial grant funding for a lot of our capital programs. Similar to Public Works, this slide is highlighting our overall staffing complement. We have a number of full-time administration and operational staff, as well as part-time and summer students. And as we were mentioning previously, as the community continues to grow, we get more growth, we get more infrastructure under our ownership and assumption. There will eventually be a need for further continued assessment and refinement of what our overall staffing complement needs to be in order to manage and operate those assets. So a lot of utilities work is very much driven by legislation. Again, much like Public Works, there's not a lot of wiggle room insofar as discretionary services provided. So we're predominantly operating under the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, the Ontario Water Resources Act, Nutrient Management Act, the Fisheries Act, to name a few, as well as a number of municipal specific bylaws and agreements that are governing the way in which we provide services and operate and maintain our assets. So now I'll turn it over to Christy and I'll have her run through the balance of the environmental services portion of this presentation.
Thank you. Through your worship, this next slide is just kind of an overview of our areas that we oversee. Michael already mentioned our full-time equivalents and some of our part-time work and summer students. So I won't go into detail there, but I'll go into a little more detail in each section through the next few slides. And I just wanted to mention we are kind of keeping this at a high level, but if you have any questions, certainly just let me know and we can elaborate on anything. So as Michael mentioned, we are very heavily regulated from the utilities and the entire environmental services department, I guess, on the solid waste side as well. We have robust sampling and monitoring programs on both our water and wastewater and our solid waste sites that we oversee. But from a water treatment perspective, we oversee or run and operate 2 water treatment plants, the AL-DAFO plant here in Napanee and the Sandhurst Shores water treatment plant in Sandhurst Shores that serves about 102 houses down south of town here. We have 91 kilometers of mains to run 2 booster stations to aid in increasing pressure to some of our further limits of the distribution system, and oversee some treated water storage tank, tower, and some raw water reservoirs. We look after locates. So quite often, especially this time of year, it's pretty busy for locates. So we are required, anytime a developer or contractor comes in and is looking to do work in our area, we are required to identify where our infrastructure is. So that takes a great deal of time, mapping it out and providing them information on how they can proceed with their dig as required or their work. We have an annual hydrant flushing program where all of our hydrants are flowed and exercised and inspected at minimum annually. That's one of the jobs that our students are heavily involved in. We oversee other things in the distribution system like a valve exercising programs and just general maintenance. We respond, our operators respond to emergencies within 1 hour as per their IBEW collective agreement. Those are things like process alarms on our treatment side, responding to main breaks and that sort of thing.
Go ahead, Councillor Hicks. Thank you. You have a question?
I do. Thanks very much, Your Worship, through you. Christy, a water main break, is there an internal alarm that goes to the operator on call? Like, is there an event that happens there, or, and I'm pretty sure this isn't the case, are you waiting for someone to go, gee, there's a lot of water on the road, maybe I should call? Where's that number for utilities emergencies? If you could just clarify that for the viewing public. I think I already know the answer though. Thank you.
Absolutely. So there's a bit of both. It depends on the situation. Sometimes there'll be alarms at our treatment plant because of the excess flow, depending on what's happening. Sometimes there's an upward trend in the water we're providing to the community. So they could be leaking underground for a few days before they surface, and we really know where the break is happening. So in that case, when our operators notice an increase in flow from the treatment plant, they're usually driving around, doing some listening, looking for things. But again, sometimes until they fully surface, we don't know they're there. But we do rely heavily on the community for calling these events in. So there were some in the last week, and we were very thankful for the residents who noticed the water bubbling under the ground and called our after hours line and reached our on-call operators to respond accordingly.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was a very quick response.
I believe so.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Gower.
Thank you, through your worship. Just to clarify, we got 91.3 kilometers of water and 62 kilometers of wastewater. So just for people watching and understanding, so not all of our area that is serviced with water is serviced with wastewater as well.
That's not exactly true. So that number includes our raw water transmission line from Lake Ontario into town. And we also have the Sandhurst Shore subdivision that does have water, but not sanitary sewer. So those individuals are on septic systems.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to just get around and better speaking words there. But back to Councillor Hicks with water main breaks. Sometimes it takes a long time for them to surface up. Sometimes you lose a tractor finding them. I know firsthand. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else before Christy continues? Seeing none, go ahead, Christy.
From the wastewater side, we have one wastewater treatment facility, a new one on the way that we're in the process of building. As mentioned, we have 62 kilometers of sanitary sewer main. We operate and maintain 7 sewage lift stations. So those lift stations are helping where in areas of our collection system where the sanitary sewage can't get by gravity to or towards the wastewater treatment plant, they're boosting essentially the pressure, pumping the sewage towards the plant for treatment. We routinely flush and do camera inspections on our sanitary sewer system. And that's mainly to let us know where issues could be, where there could be cracks, tree roots coming in that we can plan for the future for some capital work. We, again, on the wastewater side, are also required to, our operators are also required to respond to alarms within 1 hour. Typically, they could be, someone could have a sewer backup, either on the private side or in our collection system. There could be issues at the plant and that sort of thing. And our wastewater treatment plant accepts hauled sewage from septic haulers servicing our rural community. And we do accept leachate from the Richmond landfill as well and treat that material. From the solid waste perspective, we do have 3 waste disposal sites, we'll say. 2 are active transfer stations. So we'll start with the Roblin site. It's an active transfer station and has a closed capped landfill on it. It's open Saturdays from 8 to 3 for the public. And then we have our South Fredericksburg site that has an active landfill and the transfer station as well. That's open Saturdays from 8 to 3 and then Wednesday evenings throughout the summer months only. That we are actively working to prolong the life of that active landfill. As you're likely aware, it's not every day you get an approval to have a new landfill. So one of the things we're doing there is we don't let any protrusible or like household garbage go into that site in an attempt to prolong the life of that. And then we have a closed water street landfill that we just recently received an ECA or environmental compliance approval for. It was something that historically we didn't have much information on. So now we have some monitoring that goes on there. But this site obviously doesn't intend to accept any waste. It's just a monitoring program for the future. So for all of those sites, they have groundwater monitoring, surface water monitoring requirements, and reporting that are required at various frequencies depending on their environmental compliance approvals. In addition to that, we respond to resident inquiries, where can I take this piece of material? Do you accept this? What are your hours? That sort of thing. We oversee curbside collection, no longer from the recycling perspective, but we still oversee the curbside collection of garbage. And as mentioned, we do a bunch of environmental monitoring. Our team is also responsible for a lot on the billing side. So we run a meter replacement program that we're happy to say is on track for completion this year. So what we've been doing for the past close to 15 years, we've been replacing touchpad meters with a radio frequency meter just to update processes, efficiency, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of a heavy to do on our list, but nearing completion. And then we oversee bi-monthly billing for utilities users, so all of our customers on water and sewer, the residential customers there. And then we also bill monthly for some of our larger users, our hauled sewage accounts and bulk water users. Payments are processed daily. Our utilities clerks are often updating billing addresses or arranging final reads for property sales or new accounts and that sort of thing. And then our department also aids some other departments in some of the reporting and planning related to different environmental events. So we organize and arrange the annual hazardous waste event, but we also assist Public Works in some of their planning for leaf and brush collection and Christmas tree collection, and more on the reporting side for volumes and reporting that back to the ministry. And then lastly, we are always looking at reviewing our infrastructure and trying to get forward thinking for our capital plans, specifically for in-ground and our treatment facilities and their needs. We provide technical support for some of the newer stormwater monitoring requirements through the Public Works Department, and other things like annual road salt reporting, which our team is working on now. And we hope we never need to do this, but we also support other departments in spill reporting as required, as there are some strict reporting requirements and documentation needs for any type of environmental spills in our community. And lastly, we have 2 licensed electricians and 1 apprentice who support other departments as required. These are fully licensed operators on our side, but they also have or are working towards their trade electrical certificates. So they're often aiding at their rink or checking lights and that sort of thing as needed throughout our municipality and our other departments. That was all I had, but I'm available for any questions.
Great, thanks, Christy. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cover.
Thank you, through your worship. So for the wastewater haulage coming into the plant right now, we're only taking one load a day per hauler. With this new plant, when it gets up and running, are we going to be able to expand on that?
Through your worship, that's correct. We are having treatability challenges right now with our aging infrastructure. So we've had to adapt some of our discharge agreements to limit what we can accept. It seems to be going well for now. We are continuing to monitor and may be able to adjust that depending on the flows coming in the plant and how the plant is operating. With the new facility, we expect that to significantly change. That's correct.
Okay, and we have no way of monitoring or limiting what's coming in from other municipalities at this moment. Is that correct?
Through your worship, we do monitor. Every load that is delivered has what's called a hauled sewage record. So they're required to report where it came from and what type of material it is. The way that the sewer use bylaw is written currently, it's open. Our discharge agreements with the individual haulers are more detailed or prescriptive as to where we can accept the material. And we can certainly look at adjusting that. That's council's right to make these decisions and adjustments. The biggest challenge that we have is that some of our rural neighbors don't have treatment available, like wastewater treatment. So that's something that council will have to consider, but we can certainly look at adjusting these. That's a great example of a service level we provide, but can look at amending.
Excellent. No, I just want to make sure that when we get the new plant up that, we can probably acquire more, because there is a lot of other areas around that don't have the capability of treating it. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor Cover. Is there anything else? If not, I think that gets us to the end of growth and infrastructure. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Knowles, or is there one more to go? Okay. You're up.
Thank you, Worship. I'll run through the building and planning components now, and then that will conclude the growth and infrastructure portion of tonight. So from a building and planning perspective, we are administering Building Code Act. We're ensuring that regulations under the building code are adhered to during construction, and we are operating under the Planning Act for making development approval recommendations to council. Ultimately, we're ensuring that we have appropriate land use compatibility and that the community is growing in an orderly manner. On the building side, we have one CBO in charge of building inspectors. We have 3 inspectors that are plans examiners as well. We have one admin, and then we share admin with the front counter. So they do some intake. They do a little bit of pre-screening for us. There's a little bit of a helping hand from staff at the front counter from a building perspective. On the planning side, we've got Mr. Nanton as the director and one planning coordinator, and then again, just some shared services at the front counter. So on the planning side, extremely lean. Between myself and Mr. Nanton, we're able to make things work. But certainly, when somebody's off or out, there's a challenge at that point in time. So certainly, again, like the other departments that we've gone through tonight, something that we're keeping our eye on. And we know our application volumes are quite high for the number of staff that we have. We've presented that to council during the budget and identified some revenues that were being left on the table effectively, but also highlighted the challenge that we have from a staffing perspective in order to meet requirements under the Planning Act. So a lot of, again, with the building and the planning side, everything's very much legislated, some discretionary services, but in order to meet those legislated mandatory timeframes, it's challenging at times. especially when there's a large influx of applications coming in. So we're undertaking permit administration, so plans review, staff are doing building inspections, sewage system inspections, doing property standards enforcement. So that is specific to buildings, not the yard, not the grass. And I believe the clerk will be running through those components this evening. We are undertaking civic addressing and preparing for next generation 911 readiness. So the current 911 system is very outdated, and the federal government is mandating that municipalities and provinces across the country transition to next generation 911, and this is going to very much pinpoint exactly where a call is coming from, all the way down to geospatially, on a specific floor in a specific hallway. Like, it's getting extremely prescriptive. So we're working towards being ready for that transition when it comes. Ultimately, that would result in a much better service for the public. A big heavy lift for municipalities to get ready for that, though. Planning Act application processing, we get a lot of zoning compliance requests that come in, people asking for, what is this property zone? What can I do with it? Can I sever a lot? What am I allowed to do with this property? In July, Mr. Nanton will come forward with some enhancements that we are currently making to provide a greater level of service to the community insofar as a self-serve sort of online portal per se, where you can essentially look at a map, click on your property, see what the zoning is, see what you can do with that, and have it live, and really provide a lot of forward-facing information for the public to digest on their own terms, which should hopefully offset the burden that staff have with getting a lot of phone calls and emails and questions. We also undertake special project and technical studies, and we're dealing with a lot of customer service on a day-to-day basis. Predominant funding sources are the general tax levy and application fees on the planning side, and building permit fees on the building side, which is a fully cost recoverable department. And as mentioned previously, during the budget, we saw an increase to planning application fees and are realizing increased revenues as a result, which is great. This slide, again, just highlighting the overall staff and complement, but we just ran through that, so I will carry on. Building Code Act, or predominant piece of legislation. The Building Code Act or the Ontario Building Code is levied under the Building Code Act itself. We're operating under the Planning Act, Ontario Heritage Act, Environmental Protection Act. We deal a lot with conservation authorities, dealing with their pieces of legislation that are constantly evolving and preparing for the amalgamation of conservation authorities. And we have a number of municipal specific bylaws, predominantly zoning bylaw, site plan control bylaw, official plan, et cetera, that we use when reviewing development proposals and making recommendations to council. So predominantly the works consist of permit intake, plans review, the actual building inspections, and then on the planning side, we're intaking those applications, we're reviewing the zoning compliance, but we're also undertaking property standards enforcement, again, doing our technical studies and civic addressing. So those are the core services provided overall. From a building permit perspective, a lot of the time people request us to do a sort of a permit pre-screen before they submit. We turn those around within a couple of business days, and we identify any missing pieces. Once everything is all put together and in a nice package, then our clock starts to review and ultimately issue or deny a permit if all applicable law is not in place. So we undertake concurrent zoning and applicable law review while the technical aspect of the permits are being reviewed as well. So we've got identified in here the typical house, for example, residential turnaround times are 10 days from a complete application. Smaller commercial buildings are 15 days, and larger style commercial and industrial buildings are typically a 20-day turnaround. in complex buildings, which, would consist of a hospital, for example. Those are 30-day, and these are working days, not calendar days. So these are prescribed right into the building code. Additionally, on the sewage system side, under Part 8 of the building code, very similar timeframes, some nuances with some special treatment units, but predominantly in line with your general building permit applications. The building code itself identifies what inspections are to be undertaken. The province has been making changes over time to retract any overreach, I'll say, from municipalities. So some municipalities had mandated inspection requirements beyond what the building code had stated, and the province essentially took that away and says, every municipality, this is all you're doing. So we are, from the town's perspective, we weren't doing any overreach. We were right in line with the building code. It didn't impact us. But the province has been working to, reduce red tape, streamline approvals, and that was a core element in doing that. So all of our inspection turnaround times, within 2 days of receiving a notice of required inspection, that's right out of the building code. Issuance of orders, again, these are right out of the code itself. And property standards is, this is where we get a little bit of discretion, but we try to work within reason on dealing with certain property standards issues, especially where there's a life safety aspect involved, where if there's a very unsafe building, we would act on it right away. If it's a non-life threatening matter, it would fall within a routine practice. Those timelines are included in the agenda materials today. Sometimes we'll get into a real sticky situation, and complex cases can drag on upwards of a year or more in certain instances. On the planning side, this is where having just our director, Mr. Nanton, and our planning coordinator as the dedicated staff, it's really it's tough to make all of this happen and hit all of these timelines. I'm able to help out here and there and offload as needed, but there's not a lot of redundancy there. So it's something that we're turning our mind to. But predominantly what we're doing is we're pre-consulting with applicants. So we're making sure people are well aware of what requirements there are ahead of time before they make the application. We give them a list. We'll sit down, look at a concept plan. We'll say, okay, based on this, where you're located, what you want to do, here's your list of what we're going to need to see in order to help us review and ultimately give a recommendation to council. So we do that up front. It really sets a good bar for applicants to meet. They know what they have to give us. They're not guessing. We don't mandate it, but we offer it. The province actually took away any mandated pre-consultation requirements recently, but we still encourage people to do so. And there's quite a lot of uptake with that. Then we'll intake the application. We'll review it for completeness. These are straight out of the Planning Act. We, again, strive to exceed them, but in certain times when there's a massive influx with a number of applications or very complex, large applications, we're getting close to the limit. We'll undertake a technical circulation to agencies, internal departments, to the public. We'll issue our notice of a public meeting. We'll then hold the public meeting, come back with a staff report decision, and council ultimately renders a decision. There's an appeal period. If there's an appeal, that then becomes an entirely different animal that consumes a lot of staff time insofar as preparing for an appeal. So all of these dates that are identified are identified in legislation. But again, I just wanted to highlight that staff work to exceed those on a routine basis. This slide is effectively just running through our zoning, our miscellaneous customer service work that we do. So we process a lot of zoning information requests, like I had mentioned previously. We do a lot of zoning and building compliance letters. So when there's a house up for sale and it's closing, the lawyer for the purchaser will ask for all records associated with the property to see if there are known issues with the building itself or the actual use of the property. So there's a lot of time put into those to make sure that our information that we're providing is factual and correct, because people are making land purchases based on that information that we provide. When council requests special projects, so for example, feasibility of an aggregate site, that would have been considered a special project. It's sort of outside the norm of what we do on a day-to-day. It certainly adds to the workload and adds to staff's sort of timelines with respect to reporting back and to council on that special project and meeting statutory timelines for other items, for applications, for example. We certainly are eager to provide responses on those special projects, but again, there's a lot of challenge with redundancy and splitting workload to make those a very quick turnaround. So I'm just trying to ultimately convey to council, we will at some point need some more bodies to be able to continue to function at the level that we are today and realize the growth that's planned to come. Civic addressing, residents can request a civic address for their property. We'll either assign one at a permit stage, or, if there's a vacant agricultural parcel, for example, and a farmer wants to assign a number for emergency response while he's out working the land, we'll provide those and get those uploaded to the GIS system for accurate and timely service response. And general routine property and development inquiry responses and customer service. We try to respond and acknowledge customer inquiries within a day. Sometimes inquiries are much larger than others, and it might take a little bit of time to gather all the information up, but we're striving to respond to individuals within about a business day to at least acknowledge that we've received the request, and we're working towards getting them an answer. All the details, again, for Public Works, Environmental Services, and Building and Planning are in the agenda materials themselves in more detail. These are just higher level slides. But I am available for any questions that council might have. And after that, I think we're turning things over to the clerk.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, I've kind of lost track of one CBO as Chief Building Officer. Is that?
Yeah, the Building Code Act requires there to be a chief building official appointed by council. Oftentimes that's a management level position. They're not undertaking, on-site inspections. It's more managing the functions or dealing with legislative implications predominantly.
And 3 plans examiners / inspectors. So
yep.
They're both the same. They do both.
They are the same. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So three building officials. So they're the inspector and they're examining the plans at the same time.
Okay. Do we still loan out our building inspectors to other municipalities?
We've got effectively a mutual aid agreement with Stone Mills that was struck in 2018. So they had most recently they had 2. They now have 1 building inspector. They started with 1, which is what prompted the discussion. Then they went to 2, and I think that 1 individual has since left, so they're back down to 1. They are at some times in need of some help here and there. So when we provide mutual aid per se, we're charging our time to Stone Mills.
We charge the other municipality.
Yeah,
okay.
and vice versa. If we wanted to call Stone Mills, for example, hey, we need your help, they'll charge us their time as well.
Okay, thanks. That's all I need. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Bill. Is there anything else? Councillor Hicks.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. So I'm going to say something and then I'm going to follow it up with something else directed at finance and IT. So I've actually read the attachment to the agenda 3 times because it was originally presented and then we had to push it out and then we were having the special meeting. And I continue to be gobsmacked, if you will, at the amount of legislative burdens that a municipality carries. And the fact that you're doing, and I say this to both growth and infrastructure and finance and IT at this point, that you're doing it with the resources that you have and that you're doing it so well. So hats off. And I read between every line that was spoken tonight, and I'm sure I'll continue to read as we move on to legislative services. But yeah, kudos. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we ask a lot of you, and you continue to deliver. So I just wanted to say thank you before we went too much further. That's it.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is Councillor Martin?
Sorry, Mayor, could I just have a brief follow-up on what Michael, sorry, I lost my train of thought. The development charges, do they pay for any or all of like our inspection services, that sort of thing? Nothing?
No, so they do not cover operating costs. So development charges are covering upgrades to capital assets, infrastructure, new physical items, not operating costs. Our salary dollars for the building department, the building code side of the world, is solely from permit fees. So our permit fee revenue covers the costs to run the building program per se. So it's like utilities. It's a revenue neutral department.
Okay.
But the
So
planning is levy impacting.
Okay. No, I was just curious because of earlier when we were talking about reducing our DCs, and I was just wondering how that was going to affect the building department that way, but
Yeah, no, they're two separate ends. The building department collects the fees through the permit process, but those DCs go to a separate reserve for separate purposes, and it's solely the building permit fees, which are separate fees. It's a separate line item in the building permit overall fee structure. So it's those fees that are covering the costs of the building department.
thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Is there anything further before we entertain a motion? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that the council receive for information the Growth and Infrastructure Services Standards Report, and further that council adopt the Growth and Infrastructure Service Standards as presented, and further that the service types and service standards form the services and the associated standards delivered by the Growth and Infrastructure team. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And I think at this point, we'll take a 10-minute break since we're a little bit past our legislative time, and we'll come back about 8:51-ish. Great, welcome back, everyone. Moving on through our agenda, we're at Executive Services Legislative Service Levels Presentation, and Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Legislative Services Department it includes the clerk's office, bylaw enforcement services, and it now includes cemetery administration services. We also used to provide crossing guard services, so we're including that information tonight just to make sure we do highlight the important work that those town employees are doing. That will get added into the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Services once this is approved. We have our funding source is primarily the general tax levy. We do also collect some revenue through license fees, fines, and service fees, which is primarily sale of cemetery plots, which funds both cemetery administration and cemetery operations. In the department, we have 5 full-time employees, 3 in the administrative side, the clerk, the legal services coordinator, and the cemetery administrator. We have 2 full-time enforcement officers, as well as our part-time contracted service provider, which provides additional capacity support. They do dog enforcement year-round and provide additional support with respect primarily to parking, yards, and grass in that April to October period. We also have 8 part-time seasonal and casual employees who do the crossing guard service. So on this slide, there's a list of the various provincial legislation and municipal bylaws and policies that the department interacts with. Of everyone presenting tonight, our department service levels have the most room for council discretion. There are some services under provincial legislation that we must provide. We must do the vital statistics and certain provincial permits. We must provide elections. And because we have cemeteries, those must be provided in a prescribed manner. But a lot of the department work falls under the broad authority of Section 11 of the Municipal Act, which says council may establish such bylaws as it deems necessary or desirable for the public in areas such as health, safety, well-being of persons, protections of persons and property, economic, social, environmental well-being of the community. So there is a lot of discretion. Council can say this is a bylaw we would like to provide. And when you do it, there is no set level as to what enforcement or enactment of that bylaw looks like. It is entirely within council's discretion. So as we were setting these service levels, we sort of landed on if provincial legislation says we must do it, it is mandated. If council has passed a bylaw that says this is important for the community well-being, we deemed that as essential. But then under the discretionary umbrella in accordance with the bylaw enforcement standards policy is the how and when and with what department capacity we do the actual administrative and enforcement work. This is just what we're going to be talking about next. So in the administrative clerk's services, in accordance with the customer standards policy, we aim to respond to all voicemails and email requests and front desk requests within 2 business days. Better if we can, but that's our policy target. And that is the acknowledgement resolution if we can, or where we need to go from there if we can't, depending on how complex someone's inquiry might be. We issue permits on behalf of the province. We respond to freedom of information requests. One thing I just want to flag is legislation is changing on July 1st. Currently, we have 30 calendar days. We will have 45 business days to respond to freedom of information requests after that day. And there's some various other changes happening that will affect department workloads. In this slide, I don't detail all of the bylaws, although it is in the longer PDF version on your agendas. We have a target of 5 to 10 business days for issuing license and permits under the various bylaws. Shorter timelines for less complicated applications or for renewals. And that is all from receipt of a complete application. And one other thing, while our standard is 2 business days for most inquiries, we do have a standard set in this document here that during the voting period, we will aim to respond to all inquiries related to the election on the same day that they come in, because we recognize that that's a very important service that needs timely response. On the cemetery administration side, this is related to liaising with families who are looking to buy plots, schedule burials, have questions about their plots. A lot of this is set out in the cemetery bylaw, which is set by council. This department schedules interments in accordance with the bylaw, although the park staff actually carry out, or a contractor carry out a lot of that work. A lot of questions coming in from the public that we respond to, and as a department initiative, we are digitizing a lot of our paper record, which will help improve future customer service standards in this area. One area that we have as discretionary is we sometimes get requests for custom research. There is a fee for it in our fees and charges bylaw, but whether or not we're able to respond to that depends on what's going on. It's a discretionary service to provide if the department has the capacity to do it at the time, and we do charge a fee for that work. One thing I did just want to highlight tonight is earlier this year, council agreed to receive a St. Paul's Cemetery in Sandhurst, and we do anticipate a similar request coming forward from St. Albans before the end of the year. We anticipate that right now, Parks and Recreation staff perform the interments for cremations, and they cannot physically be both at the cemeteries in town, Riverview and Riverside, as well as down at St. Albans or St. Paul's. So very likely we will have some kind of proposal for the budget, either to contract out more of that work that's currently being done by staff, or to add staffing resources or some other way. We don't think it's reasonable to say you need to schedule out your burials for a week from today because we don't have people available to accommodate you. So just something that we anticipate to be forthcoming as a future service standard budget discussion. We're not there now, but we very likely will be as we keep having cemeteries downloaded onto us. Crossing guards, there are 5 staffed intersections twice daily on all school days. Just to note that the pedestrian crossing lights are actually owned by the county and not by the town. And that this now lives with the Parks Department. This is a fully discretionary service. Council can decide whether and to what extent and where this service is provided. Bylaw enforcement is primarily governed by the enforcement standards policy. We did talk about this back at our May 12th meeting, which outlines how we approach bylaw enforcement, which is primarily on seeking education and voluntary compliance where possible, escalating and shortening timelines for repeat offenders of the same issues. Some bylaws have a proactive and patrol service level, some are reactive only. And for the purposes of the standards, we have set reactive requests that come from other town departments are classified and treated the same way as requests coming from citizens, just so we are not trying to manage multiple different service standards. This is a very hard to read matrix. This is in the enforcement standards policy. You can view the full thing on our website. So for reactive, this is complaint driven is the other name for this. We have 2 different standards that we're looking to enact, primarily based on case volume, looking at the last 12 months. In November to March, we saw an average of 28 cases coming in each month, whereas in April to October of last year, we saw an average of 86 cases per month. So we are looking to just extend the response timelines out a little bit farther in those summer months when the case volume increases dramatically. One thing I did want to highlight tonight is I do think the department is a little bit of a victim of its own success. When residents see you responding to their concerns, they submit more concerns. So far for the month of June, which has had 13 work days, we have had 128 cases come in that are related to citizen-initiated or community partner-initiated requests. So expect these numbers to look different when I report back to you again in a year. So while it's great that we're seeing this community belief in the department to be doing things, it does mean there are some things we're just going to be slower to get to. We're farming things out to the contractor where we can to help keep on top of the workload. But it's just reality that the work looks very different at different times of the year. So our target, the main service level we really want to focus on as a department is that initial acknowledgement. We realize we have not been perfect in maintaining this, but this is the main one we want to focus on getting really good. And that is, yes, we heard your case. Yes, it is related to a town bylaw and someone will do something with it, or no, this is not related to a town bylaw, or we need more information. That is the piece that we're going to focus on trying to maintain, because the rest of this really does depend on the case. Investigations, you'll see in the more detailed document, we have slightly different timeline for investigations. For example, I believe we have 50 or 60 grass cases down in the south, Ward 1, that we need to follow up on. And those are all going to be done at the same time rather than driving down there every time. Just for one case, we pile them all up and then send somebody down because it's a bit of a drive to get down there. The initiation of enforcement per the policy that if it's a first offense, we try to start with a warning and education, escalating to enforcement action if the warning is not successful. We issue an order with a deadline for compliance. If it's not complied with by that deadline, we will send in a contractor to do the work, have the cost billed back to the property owner on taxes. But we do have to provide a reasonable timeline for them to know that they have to do the work and to do the work. If you're getting questions about why hasn't anything been done yet, that's probably why. On the proactive side, this is the patrol out looking for things. We have different focuses on different times of the year. In the winter months, we are focused more on winter maintenance support, making sure emergency access roads are staying clear. Not a lot of encampment patrol happening in the winter months. And we are, as in the attached documents, aiming to patrol. There's a document with sort of patrol zones. We're aiming to hit all of those zones at least once a quarter, more often than that if possible. And we're going to be tracking that with the geotab data in the truck to verify when was the truck actually, how much time was it spending in each of the zones, each of the wards. Summer months, we're patrolling for yards and grass. One of the things with our proactive enforcement level is grass is primarily reactive, but if an officer attends and one property is in violation and 5 other properties on the same block are also in violation, they will address all of them. They won't just do the one that had a complaint come in about it. And we are aiming to patrol sensitive use areas for encampments at least once a week, and respond within promptly when we receive citizen concerns about those encampments. For encampments outside of sensitive use areas, it's primarily monitoring on a regular basis to ensure that they're staying compliant with the protocol. Are there any questions about the department service levels?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Jess's presentation of the report that's in front of us? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information executive services legislative service levels presentation report, and further council directs that the service types and service levels as presented be adopted for legislative services department. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And I think, Madam Clerk, you're going to do the executive services establishing service level for abandoned encampment sites as well. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have Officer Cook here with me this evening as well, just in case council has any specific questions about what this is looking like on the ground. But at a high level, encampments is an evolving area for us. In the 2025 budget, we didn't budget for it at all. In 2026, we included $15,000 as a guess for what we would need for contracting out cleaning up of abandoned encampments on town property. At this point in time in the year, we do not believe that will be sufficient, and we've also had internal capacity discussions with the Parks and Public Works departments about what is a reasonable ask for town staff to be doing when it comes to cleaning up these sites, and when is it appropriate to just go straight to a contractor. So in attempting to set out shared expectations, you'll see we have a matrix document attached to this that looks both at the risk of how quickly does this work need to be done, as well as capacity. Are we able to do it? There are some tasks that we just don't have the equipment in-house to do it at all. There are some tasks that, yes, we could do it, but our guys are all out mowing the ditches and we would like them to also be doing that work, and we don't want to pull them off of that. So for very simple, non-risky, non-complex cleanups, it is our intention that those would still be done in-house by default. And then there's quite a few that fall in this case specific, where bylaw staff will identify an encampment. They will reach out to department staff and say, here's some photos. Do you guys have the capacity to do this within the next week? And if they say, no, absolutely, we do not. Or if the fire chief says we need it done faster because there's an elevated fire risk right now, then we would look to contract that work out. We are seeking authorization for up to $50,000 from reserves for the remainder of the year. We recognize that is a large increase. We don't want to use all of that. Our aim will be to keep costs low where possible. But we would rather not have to keep coming back to ask you for this money, especially as we head into an election season and possible lame duck restrictions. However, it is council's prerogative what kind of controls you want to set on this, acknowledging that this is a new and evolving area for us. So we are both here to answer any questions council may have on this.
Great, thanks, Jess. Go ahead, Councilor Nari.
Great job. Just quickly, is there any government agency that we can get cost recovery from, or is that still that gray area that nobody knows anything about?
Through your worship, unfortunately, these are on our property, so we are the ones who are ultimately responsible for making sure our properties are safe and compliant with town bylaws. It does look like CAO Grant wishes to speak, though.
I think Mr. Grant wants to weigh in as well. Go ahead, Matt.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll to you, Councillor, I'll just be blunt. I've heard this question in a number of municipalities. Hamilton, I've heard it from lots of my counterparts, and I would characterize it like this. This problem's going to get worse before it gets better, and nobody's coming to help us.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I guess if there's a silver lining in all this, we do have the ability to track this just in case that silver spoon gets offered to us at some point.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we are tracking those things. And what I would suggest is this will be a matter of significant political advocacy and discussion. I know that's already been the case from this council and other councils. It's been on the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. It's been on Rural Ontario Municipal Association. This continues to be an ongoing effort. And this is a direct result of the housing crisis and the opioid crisis. We do not have the ability to prevent this problem, and it's not within our ability to do that. But we do have a responsibility to manage, and I would suggest actually with a number of calls and inquiries we get from other municipalities about how we're doing it, and including apparently when Councillor Martin and I were speaking with one of his constituents a while ago, the mayor of St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. We're handling it better than most.
Great, thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cover.
Thank you, through your worship, to Alan. $50,000 out of our budget. Have we got room to do that? Or out of our reserves?
Through your worship, the recommendation would be to find out of our tax rate stabilization reserve. It's not overly healthy, but there is sufficient room within that to fund the contracted services required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Carver. Is there anything else? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not lost on me that we are the county seat, so we get, we provide most of the services to other municipalities, homeless factors too. So I'm just wondering if the county wouldn't contribute to our cleanup costs in some way.
I think we may have ventured down that road, I think, Bill, at one point, and maybe Mr. Grant can weigh in on that, but I'm not sure we're having a whole lot of success. Am I correct with that, Mr. Grant?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, ongoing discussion, but I will renew my inquiries.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there anything else? I'll go ahead, Deputy Mayor Carver.
Thank you, through your worship, and to Councillor Martin. There's one taxpayer. Which way do you want this to go? The county gets the money from the province to look after the homelessness and through Pellis and so on and so forth. That's not necessarily off of what our take is, but I'm sure that if we, we want to pay more, we can collect more, or we look after it like we're going to have to do. I mean, it's the reality. The money doesn't just keep coming in because it's the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is there anything else, Councillor Norrie?
Just quickly, I just wanted the public to be aware of this, so if they don't get their Christmas trees picked up, they'll know why.
Thanks, Bob. And you do bring up a good point, which is kind of a nice way to round up this evening, is that with respect to service levels, sometimes we have to cut levels for one thing to pay for something else, because with the mandatory things that we have to do, we have no choice to do it, but which leaves us with our discretionary service levels that unfortunately are the ones that kind of get beat up on this thing. So, or we raise taxes and nobody wants to hear that. So go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I would be remiss if we also didn't take a moment to celebrate the success of the municipality on what we have been able to achieve. So at council's direction, the municipality has maintained an affordability advantage that is not insignificant. At last count, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 28% in terms of a lower tax burden than some of our neighbors. We maintain comparable services and we do more with less. So we do have a number of stresses and strains being the county seat. We are experiencing, some more issues such as homelessness more than anybody else. But I would say that we have been able to strike a balance. And the services that you've seen today are being delivered on an ongoing basis, and the team is being able to meet new challenges. And staff is acutely aware of council's direction to shield the taxpayer from some of the increasing costs in uncertain economic times. And we've been able to do that. And I think we've been able to do that because we've been disciplined in our approach. It's not all doom and gloom. There is a lot to be proud of in terms of what we've been able to achieve. And council has been very focused in their goals. And I think they've been the right goals.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Councillor Shank.
Jessica, do we have a mover and a seconder for this motion yet?
No, we haven't. We do have a staff recommendation, but we haven't
Yes,
got that.
I'll move staff recommendation for the sole reason is I know it's $50,000, but our job is paramount to be the safety of our citizens. All right. And if you didn't go that $50,000 and you have the amount of trash that's been cleaned up in these abandoned sites. All right. And some child, God forbid, happened to get poked with something or whatever. You know what I mean? So number one is to keep our parks clean. We're doing everything in our power to limit the excess of what's going on. But the point is that I'll move that motion. Let's
Great.
keep it clean.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Shanks. So we do have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Shank and Councillor Hicks, with respect to a recommendation that council receive for information the executive services establishing service level for abandoned encampment sites report. And further, that council approve the proposed service levels as presented, and further that council authorize the use of up to $50,000 from reserves for the remainder of 2026 to support the use of contracted services to clean up abandoned encampment sites that exceed the threshold for internal service capacity. So we do have a mover and a seconder. Is there anything anyone else would like to say before we call for the vote? Seeing none, all in favor of the motions on the floor, opposed, the motion is carried. Thanks, folks. And now we'll look for a motion for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council Corporation of Town of Greater Napanee at its special session of council held June 17th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Davies, second by Councillor Hicks, read it first, second, and finally passed the 17th day of June, 2026. All in favor of that motion, opposed, motion is carried, and look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion. Opposed, motion is carried. Thanks, folks. Once again, it's been a very productive special session of council. We've covered a lot of ground with respect to processes, and we'll see you next week with respect to our regular session.